Have you ever wondered how they print all over a t-shirt? Well, as you know, all over screen printing is extremely popular in many screen print markets today. I'm Ryan Moore, and with this quick and easy tutorial, we're going to show you how to effectively accomplish an all-over screen print. Well, all-over screen printing obviously starts somewhere, and that's with all-over artwork. So let's jump into Photoshop and show you guys how to mock up an all-over screen print. When setting up your artwork for all-over printing, we'd recommend setting it up on the actual t-shirt. So using a t-shirt template, even if it's just a simple single 2D illustration and or a more illustrated t-shirt mock-up like you see here, allows you to take the artwork, move it around. Now this actually has a mask layer to it, so we can't see the artwork move out of the actual image size, but we can mock it up on the t-shirt so that when we print the shirt, it's very close to approximately the size. This is an American Apparel template that you can download from their website. They have all different sizes, styles of shirts that you can use. It's available from Go Media. There's also tons of different artwork templates that you can use for as far as t-shirt mock-ups. So whatever you're doing, take your artwork, whether it be using Illustrator, CorelDRAW, or Photoshop, and mock it up on the shirt to size. So take a shirt, actually physically measure it, and this will give you your approximate dimensions of your artwork on the t-shirt. The next step of the process is film output. Now, most all-over prints are going to be wider than your average film output printer. For instance, here's a 13 by 19. This is like an Epson 1400, an Epson 1100. This is 11 by 17. This is a 17-inch wide image. This is out of a 4880. Even this image, obviously, is not as big for all of the t-shirts. So unless you have a larger Epson printer or a wider format, maybe a roll-in printer that can accomplish one piece of film for this artwork, we're probably going to have to double these films out. So as you can see with this film, we printed half the film and simply tape the two films together so we don't have the same image here. But when you do that, you want to make sure you overlap the image slightly, and it's hard to accomplish doing this with halftones, so you have to be very, very careful lining all of those up. Next step is burning the image. Now, when you're burning a screen this large, you either need to have a large exposure unit with a vacuum system. You can also use compression weight. You need about 40 or 50 pounds traditionally using a weighted system for positive contact to press this film to the screen mesh to get a crisp image. If you don't have that, what you can actually use is the sun or some overhead halogen lights. Overhead halogen lights using a water-resistant emulsion like we have here, a dual-cure emulsion, typically burn like a 500-watt halogen light will typically burn a screen in roughly 12 to 13 minutes. But you still need that positive contact. So this is a water-based adhesive, and basically we can just put a little bit on the screen here, spread it around, and then just stick our film down. And it's not obviously the best for your film because it will ruin it. However, it does do a great job of adhering the screen, and it dries clear because it's water-based, so it's essentially like glue. So we basically just stick this down like that. And then you can use the other side of your squeegee it down, and voila, positive contact, stuck really stuck down to the shirt right there. So you could do that in an overhead exposure to accomplish that positive contact if you don't have a large enough exposure unit. Now let's go to ink mixing systems. When you're printing directly onto the shirt like we are right here, this is called an on-contact print, we're going to be using a thin ink. This is going to be like a water-based, a discharge, or a reduced plastisol ink. The reason why we need to use the thin ink is because the ink drops directly into the garment. In this particular case, we're going to be using a discharge ink. A lot of all-over printing is accomplished with discharge. Discharge actually uses an activator, so we're going to put it up on the gram scale here, and then we're going to mix in our activator. This particular discharge mixes in at about 5% activator per weight. So we'll mix in our activator here. So we're mixing 5 grams of agent here. Right there, just over 5 grams, and we mix it up real good. And with this discharge, we're actually going to be pigmenting it. So we'll just mix a couple grams of water-based pigment in here. This is black pigment, and this should make a nice gray discharge. And once that's all activated and mixed up, we'll go to print on screen. Now, discharge is ink that actually takes the pigment and then re-dyes dark garments. It typically works on 100% cotton. So what we're going to do is we're going to line our shirt up. This is a on-contact print, meaning that it has a neoprene surface. We're not actually putting the shirt over the platen, we're putting the shirt on the platen. Why don't you come down and see how that works with the screen. We're putting the screen directly on it, and then we'll go to accomplish the print. So we got to make sure the shirt's all the way flat, and then the neoprene actually absorbs the squeegee as it prints over it. So it's going to go directly on this. Typically, because we're going directly on the shirt, this is called what's called on-contact printing. So we're going to flood up, and then with this particular print, it's a push print. We'll push back. You can push or pull But basically what you're going to want to do here is saturate the garment. The reason why we're using the thin ink is because that ink has to release out of the screen. It cannot stay stuck in the screen. So if we use like an opaque plastisol white, that obviously would not work well. So we printed this twice. You got to make sure that our ink looks saturated into the garment. With discharge and water-based, typically you want to leave the screen flooded when you're not printing, and then we're going to slowly lift up. As you can see, you have some really cool print right over the seam right there, all over the entire garment, up onto the collar even. And this is a nice artistic print designed in Photoshop. Let's run it through the dryer now. With water-based and discharge ink, you need to use air in your dryer to optimally cure it. You can use an infrared dryer, but optimally, if you use an air dryer, it drives the water out of the ink and then cures and then discharges the shirt. And there we have our final print. This is all over the shirt. We got some really cool seam penetration right there. We're using the airflow dryer, so it discharged out the first time through. Now, because this has a little bit of pigment in it, it will fill a little bit, but once you wash it, it'll be completely like the cotton of the t-shirt. So really cool effects. You can then embellish this with foil or maybe a simulated process print. All over the t-shirt printing is extremely popular once again, and using these methods and more in-depth methods that you can find by researching it on YouTube or looking for all over printing tips on the internet, you can really accomplish some cool things by printing all over the shirt.